gathering of input, both from the applicant as well as, I guess, any other external sources, to determine whether or not the applicant is eligible to receive a license. It's not determining whether or not they have received the license and now have lost the license and now need to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to receive that license again. They are, by virtue of 2.61, from my understanding, as I listened to Councilor Pissarro read it, it's clearly stating that they're gathering all this information in order to determine eligibility to receive a license. And it doesn't talk about the next steps about appealing once they have lost their license. That's why we have that bylaw in place, to go forward with the steps to allow that to happen. We talk about bias. I mean, we could be somewhat exposed to bias on any issue, because we come with a perspective on anything that's before this table, and have a perspective after we've read the documents and so forth, and maybe determined that we may have a bias already with regards to that issue, whatever that issue might be. So I think we are up here charged with the responsibility of, as Councilor Calder said, taking a look at the merits of the program, being very clear and being very precise in terms of what it is that it is doing or not doing relative to this particular example in terms of the appeal. And we make a decision based on that. That's why we're here, to enforce bylaws, to interpret them, to move them forward, and to do things of that nature. And we have a very clear bylaw in place to allow that to happen. So I'm still supportive of not moving forward with this. I think that we have things in place to make sure that it happens. I, for one, would be very specific with regards to the details, and look very closely at what the bylaw says and make a judgment based on solely that bylaw and no bias involved.
Councillor Stuckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In response to Councillor Pissarro's comments from the AGCO, where they say they can put in any and all documentation, although that's correct, it still doesn't allow them the opportunity to be heard physically. And I would take myself back to not too long ago when we had the audit committee here. And I was standing down there and they were sitting up here, and I had the opportunity to hand in all the paperwork I wanted. But I also had the opportunity to stand up and be heard and give my side of the story. And I think that's important in any case like this. So I stand by my original thought that it doesn't go on to the AGCO and we deal with it in-house.
Councillor Luberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment on the eligibility of 2.6.1 and the evaluating the organization. I had a conversation a while back with Mr. Parr from the ACGO, and from what I gather, when they're looking at the eligibility of the organization, these are the criteria that you need to follow in order to be eligible. The Friends of Crystal Beach followed that eligibility, and they were eligible. Now, what we're seeing here in this request, in this bylaw tonight, or this motion tonight, is to have the AGCO to review the Friends of Crystal Beach's eligibility. And I think if you look at the appeal that the Friends of Crystal Beach filed, I believe that not only are they appealing the decision, but they were also appealing the process in which they got to that point. And so I don't know, and I didn't read anywhere in the ACGO and anywhere in the provincial legislation where that will be heard. And although Friends of Crystal Beach may be able to submit that type of information to the ACGO, there's nothing in here that says the ACGO is going to look at that. And that's what our bylaw is going to provide for the Friends of Crystal Beach, is was the process also followed properly? And then how did they come to the conclusion that the license was being revoked? And and Mr. Parr did tell me that ultimately the decision lies with the council. And that's why we have this bylaw in place, I think, is so that this council can make that decision. And I understand where the guidelines in the licensing policy manual from the province deals with eligibility, but the Friends of Crystal Beach were eligible, the license was revoked, and now they applied for an appeal. We have that process in place, and I still believe that they deserve to have their appeal heard.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Culver?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I stated earlier, I believe that this process is about the right to due process. And I think to change the rules now would deny any group the right to the same benefits that accrue to being licensed and eligible to receive a license from bingo. Before a baseball tournament that I'm umpiring, I always go through the rule book and I read the rules in detail. And one of the things that jumped off the page to me, and it states in the rule book that an umpire must be colorblind. It also states it helps to be deaf as well, but colorblind is first. And I know that the rules that are in place in the rule book are not meant to punish a player or any team over another. It's about making sure that it's an even playing field. There's teams that I don't like, there's players that I don't like, there's players that I do like, there's teams that I like. But never have I ever allowed my personal feelings towards a player or a team color the way I make a call. And I believe that's what will happen in this process as well. If you look at the facts, it's clear, it's open, it's transparent, it will be. The appeal was put in there in the original bylaw 185-2000. It was put there for a reason. Whoever drafted up the bylaw, and it may be flawed, but this is the governing document that we're using right now. And I believe that we have to go forward, follow the rules of procedure. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, you may not like the process, but I think that's the way we should go, and I will not support this motion as it is.
It's been asked to call the question. As chair, I'm not supposed to speak, but I am going to say something. As the representative of the council on the Gaming Corporation, the Friends of Crystal Beach were offered the opportunity to come to the Gaming Corporation. This could have been easily resolved if they had came. But they more or less said, we're not going to deal with you, we'll get what we want by going to council. I sit here week after week and just can't believe some of the things I hear. How this council has the audacity to think that they can impartially rule on this, it's beyond me. You have an authority that can look at this and make a decision that everyone could live with, but you don't want to do that. So now you want to feel it. And the 4 people that put their name forwards, if you don't think you haven't got a conflict, God help you. The audacity just blows my mind. But anyways, I'll call the question. It's going to pass 4-3. God made little green apples. That's what it is. So we'll call the question.
The motion on the floor is to send it off to the minister. Is it not, Madam Chair?
Yeah, it's defeated. All those in favor of sending, I'm in favor. Defeat? 4. It's canceled. Lost. So the appeal goes forward.
Vote on who's going to be representing on the appeal board. We have to appoint a member, a tri-party group from this council to hear the appeal, and I think the clerk will pass around the ballots.
Order, Mayor. I had originally sent my name forward. After consulting with independent legal advice, I wish to withdraw my name from the Appeals Committee.
So noted, then I believe, Councilor Schuler, that removes the necessity of having a vote on this.
That's
I believe
correct.
the motion would come forward then that the
And
committee...
just for the public's record, I am not eligible to sit on the appeal because I'm a member of the corporation.
That's correct. So that the Gaming Appeal Committee would be, then the motion on the floor, and I will move that if you like. But the motion on the floor is that the Friends of Crystal Beach have an appeal to the tribunal as set out, including Councilors Collin, Hill, and Lewis.
All those in favor? I'm opposed. It's carried. Takes us to new business or inquiries. Seeing none, takes us to business.